On this episode of AV Week, how the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data issue could impact your AV business, Samsung and their new cinema screen technology, and manufacturers partnering together with integrators to go global. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 345, recorded Friday, April 6th, 2018. Flammable data.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Extron Electronics and by Biamp.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about the news and information that we have gathered this week, first and foremost, her name is Corey Schaefer, and she is from QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Tracy Brefka. We didn't scare him away the first time, so he is back. He is from Buyer Dynamic. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, my boss, my compatriot, buddy, and pal, the indispensable industry icon. He goes by the name of Bradford Ben. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. Is it time to play the disclaimer? Yeah, let's play the disclaimer right now. I speak for no one but myself. I don't speak for my wife, don't speak for my dogs, don't speak for my coworkers. I do speak for Tim on occasion, but I definitely do not speak for my company, which shall remain nameless. Thank you all for listening and understanding that these are my personal opinions only. And
I will point out that he does speak for me from time to time. All right. Our top story, which actually this is one of the stories that he will speak for me for, because Bradford's one of the guys that I go to when it comes to security. Top story is Facebook and Cambridge Analytica's use of user data. Facebook says it has discovered that the research company Cambridge Analytica improperly, quote unquote, used data on over 85 million users now. When the story broke, it was a little bit less than that, but now they're saying 85 million users. During the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign, this data was used to target ads and news articles to Facebook users. The data, they said, the data said were susceptible to certain campaigns favoring one candidate over another. Facebook is facing serious scrutiny for their handling of the data from the U.S., UK, Eurozone, and Australian governments, just to name a few. In Commercial Integrator this week, Dan Newman wrote a story focusing on this specific Facebook and Cambridge Analytica issue. And the story he says the story is a warning to AV dealers that are handling customer data. He writes, quote unquote, there is a need to constantly be monitoring the ways that data can cause us problems, us being audiovisual integrators, and what companies that don't feel a lot of responsibility for data privacy need to do instead. One thing I will point out is about a year ago, we did an interview with Teresa Payton, who is a security expert. She was actually the first CTO of the White House under Bush II. She says, if you handle customer data, you are responsible for keeping it safe. Bradford, I'm going to start with you on this. What do companies need to do to safeguard the data and honestly, and their companies?
So I am actually going to do a throwback to an ITAV that you and me and Michael Drainer were on, where we talked about the fact that Amazon Web Services are now allowed to store medical data in the UK because it's more secure.
Yep.
And I think that's not a bad way to do it here in the States, of put the security onto someone who does it full time. Just the same way you wouldn't want someone coming in and, playing shade tree electrician when they're installing your house and installing all your smart stuff, Alexa and Google and all those listening devices. You don't want someone who's just, oh yeah, I know how to keep this safe, and put it someplace and off it goes. So I am a big proponent in Amazon and the security they have, but this still requires security at the point of entry. And by that, I mean the integrators, the businesses. And it doesn't have to be Amazon. It's a simple, easy one to use. We happen to use it at AVNation because it satisfies my requirements. But you still have to be secure at the point of entry. If you don't need that data, don't ask for it, because now you don't have the liability for it. Recommend Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or Google Pay because it's a transaction, not a credit card number. I realize there are repercussions for that, but also don't store stuff on your laptop. You know, if you go out to the job site and you're working and someone hands you a credit card and says, just take a picture of this and send it, don't keep that on your laptop. Have Square. Don't do it the old-fashioned way. It's the same data safety that we have every place. Now, where it starts to become more interesting, in my opinion, is how do we as integrators and users and resellers and experts explain that when you put Alexa in a conference room or Alexa at home or Google or any of these things, what it means for your data safety and who owns that metadata. In my opinion, don't ask for it, which is what AVNation's policy is. We don't ask if we don't need it. Don't share it because you can't without permission. And hire someone who's more capable than you are for storing it securely. And still practice good things like change your password every 90 days. Don't use the same password for AVNation as you do for Amazon, Tim. Don't do other things such as that of just finding the good security things. The biggest thing, though, is don't store it if you don't need it. As someone said a couple of years ago, data is the new oil. All oil is flammable. You got to store it carefully. So is data.
Yeah.
So I can go on much, much longer if you would like, but I figure we should let Corey and Tracy talk.
Well,
Yeah,
when I read it, you know, I thought it was, you know, just really gives you many things to think about. And, you know, many of us in our companies, when we have a website and we're posting things about sustainability, our corporate governance, you know, et cetera. And I would guess that we're going to, you know, it could be a very competitive weapon to post what we do with customer data as well, to get customers to be thinking about that, because end users likely are, and if they're not, you know, just putting it out there and being very mindful about it and having a policy and putting the policy out for the user to see it.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I kind of follow if you need to give me a credit card, I'll give you a call. Don't email it to me. Don't send it to me. Don't send me a picture because, you know, I don't want everyone having lunch on you. So internally, we don't have a very sophisticated system. And I know that once credit card information is given, it's pretty much destroyed immediately unless a customer wants to keep it. But it's kept more, like I said, more in an analog world, like on a piece of paper somewhere. But I don't think it's because we don't want to be updated. I just think at the moment that it's been working, and it's one of those if it works, don't fix it kind of things. But as far as other stuff, we are going to be coming out with like a huddle space microphone that's Bluetooth or you know, USB. So so it's possible that we need to look at that a little more and find out if it's going to be secure or not in those type of things.
Yeah, to Bradford's comment, if you don't need it, you know, don't take it. So in this case, less is more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Less is more. Really quickly, and this is for any of the three of you. Corey mentioned, you know, making it known what you do with customer data. Can that be used as a sales point or a sales tactic at this point in the game, where you can say, you know, on our website, look, this is kind of what we do. Right. With your data. We don't do this. We don't do this. We don't take any of this. This is what we do with your data.
I think it matters. I think it matters to end users just as much as, you know, they're wondering what you're doing, you know, for sustainability and you know, and other things and how you run your business. And I think this is one of those items that matters to an end user and can definitely be used as a competitive weapon.
Yeah, I think you're right. Back when there was that whole kerfuffle with the NSA and stealing our info, whatever, someone said, yeah, well, I go on a page and Google knows what I want to buy. So who's protecting whose information? So even in the cynical world we live in, I think you're right. If there's some kind of statement on the website that says, this is our policy about your information, what we do and what we don't do with it, that could be a good selling point.
And you know me, Tim, I have made our business decisions based on these privacy policies and their data policies already with who our hosts are and what services we use. So it's definitely a thing, and it's starting to become required more and more as a legal thing, because we can't share data without telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And that also goes for any other company. Any website is not allowed to share data without telling you. It's one of the reasons, we can rewind a little bit to Bose and their music play thing a few months back. It said what they were doing. I think it was very obtuse, but I can tell you that I'm not going to use their app because it has access to the phone. I don't have the Facebook app because it has so much access to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a very big thing. I think it's going to become more and more important. I also think that the other thing we as an industry need to look at is how we're storing our data. Is it encrypted? I know Tim knows I put everything with a PGP, pretty good privacy, which is an open source 128-bit or 256-bit encryption. It works very well with the public and private key.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my entire hard drive is encrypted using that. Takes my computer a little slower, but you can get the data off my hard drive. If you don't know my passphrase or my key,
right,
you're stumped. And that's one of the things I think that we as integrators in any business needs to start keeping more secure.
And I also think, back to your original point, Bradford, is if you don't think that you have the know-how internally, then outsource it to people who do it all day and every day. Yeah. All right. Our next story actually comes to us from AV Magazine. Samsung has debuted their very first European installment of what they're calling the Samsung Cinema Screen. Matt Scott and I saw this at Integrated Systems Europe a couple months back. At that point, they were only in Korea as kind of a proof of concept. This is the very first installation that they've done outside of South Korea. It's in Switzerland, and it's a LED wall with integrated JBL speakers for cinemas. The reason for the JBL speakers, the way they explained it to us, is because in a traditional cinema setting, you have speakers behind the acoustically porous projection screen. Well, you have a video wall. It's not very acoustically porous. So you've got these JBL speakers, and the way that they've designed them, it's designed in such a way to make it seem as if they're right behind the screen. The system is what's called 3D LED, and according to AV Magazine, the luminosity of this is 10 times what a conventional projector would give us. Tracy, we'll start with you on this.
Yeah.
What does this do in what seems to be a increasing battle between projection and LED, or projection and just displays in general?
Well, I guess, the concept is excellent. I think walking into a totally black movie theater and being able to see the movie without a little bit of light interrupting is great. I think at the end of the day, like anything, it's going to come down to price, availability, and how many people can take this. I think, as we see in video all the time, something comes out, it's $10,000, and then 2 years it's $499 at Best Buy. So, I guess it's going to depend on how quickly they get the technology out there and how quickly people adapt it to their movie theaters, their college installations, whatever they want to use this for. I think the idea is fantastic, and I think as a moviegoer, I'd appreciate that, that nice dark theater with a bright screen in front of me. But again, I think it's time, money, and availability, and are people going to buy into it?
Real quick, you mentioned price. We did reach out to Samsung and asked that specific question. The response we got was, quote unquote, prices vary. Since it goes through the channel, it is equivalent to a 6P laser projection installation. So 6 laser projectors. So
I think, I'm just going to jump in. I think the delivering a wow factor like this in the cinema vertical is fantastic. There's so many other ways for us to gain content, and so this is another way to get all of us, the general public, to come into cinema and have a really different experience, and hopefully leaving with that wow factor. And yeah, I couldn't, when I was reading it and it said 10 times stronger, I was just like, wow. But it does, in the company that I work for, we have a cinema division. And this has been top of mind for us because when we first saw this, I think it was CinemaCon in Las Vegas, and at QSC, we put speakers behind the screen for that immersive sound. And so it's caused us to really rethink everything we're doing as well.
Well, and Corey, to that point, the cinema owners actually have been kind of hand-wringing for a while with, not as, you'll read articles in USA Today and New York Times about not as many people going to cinemas for one reason or other, whether it's the price, the fact that they can get their movies and are, the typical home theater. A lot of times, sometimes rivals what they can get, down the street at their local cinema. This is something that you can't put, or you typically wouldn't put, in your house.
Exactly. And with that, cinema owners have been thinking about other content to bring. So they're not just thinking about the typical movie, they're bringing the Met, to many local theaters, et cetera. And imagine that experience, displayed this way.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Just for the record, they also do the Doctor Who Christmas special at my local theater. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Bradford, I want to bring you. Go ahead.
And say there's also a couple other things to build on what Corey's saying and build on the theaters in general. I agree it has to be a special situation to have a better experience than home, and I think this does help. I know that now that I've moved, I'm starting to pick movie theaters based on the quality of the experience and the seats and all that stuff. The thing that's not always apparent to people about this new direct view instead of projection is how much it improves the contrast and also how the color gamut gets much closer to film this way than it does via the typical projection, because typical video does not have the same color gamut. And we can talk about sRGB versus cinema versus all this other stuff. The big thing is the direct view has the full color gamut of film, of cinema. And that does make a difference. The other thing is the blacks are incredible. When you go to a movie theater and doing projection, the darkest part of your screen can only be as dark as the darkest part of the theater, and then you start making it gray to be reflective, and then you have an exit sign and you get a certain amount of luminosity on the stairs. Your black is now maybe 75% black on the screen. Now all of a sudden your black is off, and that becomes big. There's other things that don't necessarily become apparent but can greatly impact cinema costs and costs of ownership. Lasers gets rid of the bulb problems. I'll just take that off the table. Which is going to be easier to brace for seismic activity? An LED panel that's rigid or a screen with speakers mounted behind it? And that seems small, but these things are now starting to become bigger. Like you said, Corey, you were just in Japan. They probably have various earthquake codes. In fact, I know they do. They've recovered very well. Those are the things that change. It also changes the cost of the theater itself because of the rigging costs. You can bring it up from the bottom. You can hang it from the top, all those things.
Yeah.
So it is a huge impact that's not directly implied. Like, for instance, how many of us have gone to a movie that's shot anamorphically instead of a standard 16:9? You have the gray bars at the top and the bottom with letterboxing. Well, with this new direct view, it's turned off. It's black. You're not going to see it. Yeah. So I think that will enhance the movie quality. You're not going to have a beam going through there. You don't need as much cooling in a specialized projector booth, so you don't lose that square footage. It meets all of the licensing rules that you can't physically open the back of one of these boxes without stopping the license. So it has answered the vast majority of questions, and it's done it pretty well. I love the quality of the picture. I'll be honest, Tim, I know you saw it at ISE. You'll see it in a couple other places, I'm sure. I want one for my bedroom, but I don't think I can get far enough away to view it.
Big house
Well,
for
and
that, yeah.
good luck getting the wife to sign off on that one too.
Yeah.
All right. Final story here. A couple of weeks ago, AVNation, we were able to go down to Tampa and cover AVISPL's annual Sales Acceleration Summit. They call it SAS 2018. It is AVISPL as a company, one giant organization getting together to give direction to their employees, but also they invite a number of of their partners, manufacturers, to come in, show off their wares, demonstrate what they've got coming down the pipeline. They also invite their customers, a number of key accounts, to come through as well. We were able to do a number of interviews with AVISPL folks as well as manufacturers. And the one I want to kind of key in on is a conversation we had with Kevin Iselli from Crestron about an initiative that AVISPL is going forward with. And not that they're not global. Don't misunderstand. During the presentation, they said they had installations in over 100 countries in 2017. So they're there. But they're looking for a commitment from their partners, from their manufacturers, to help them get even more global. And Tracy, I want to start with you on this, and then I'll go with Corey as the manufacturers, and we'll wind up with Bradford. They're asking for things like making sure the warranties are uniform at least as much as possible throughout the world, right? Making sure that product is available throughout the world.
Correct.
When you guys talk with these integrators, and not just AVISPL, a lot of integrators are pushing beyond their own borders. What can you guys as manufacturers do to help them, get into another country or maybe a new market?
Well, we Biodynamic is pretty much a global company right now. We have obviously the Europe, the Americas, Asia, and they look at it as a global company. So it's all their warranties, pricing, all this kind of stuff. They try to keep consistent. I mean, obviously there's price differences between the currencies, but they're sort of streamlining everything. So all the marketing looks the same. Everything that they send out to our different offices has a very similar look to it. There's some colloquialisms you have to change a little bit of language on every once in a while, but other than that, they are looking at that as, if I get a call from someone in another country, I go, well, I'll tell you what, here's the folks you have to call to get the information you need. So I can't sell into Europe. However, I know the people that they can contact in countries and areas where they can contact to find out where our distributors are, where to get the pricing and all that other stuff. And they make sure that there's product available globally as well. And the experience we've had here, if we don't have it on the shelf, it's here within a week or so. So they've really streamlined the logistics on how to get product to us worldwide, pretty much. It's been consistent. I've talked to my colleagues that are in India and Asia, and they really haven't had any problems on that level either. And we try to keep talking like that to see what differences they're seeing in their markets, that we can say, well, we do this here, would this help you? And we're trying to talk as one global company right now, which I think is helping, because we have had, I've had the guy come in to say, well, I got this guy, but he's going to be doing this in the United States. Who can you go to? And vice versa. We've sent folks to these guys because they're not going to be doing anything here. They're going to be doing something in their area of the world. So that has kind of worked out mostly. I mean, there's still glitches. I think anytime you're a global company, there's going to be the big email that says, "Don't talk to this guy. I'm working with him." That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's been the attitude of Bayer for probably a number of years now, is that we are a global company, and that's how we have to think. And I think more and more companies seem to be going that way, from what I can see talking to other sales managers out there that I interact with.
All right, Corey, same kind of question to you. I mean, you guys just hired a brand new head of India. As you guys are expanding, even more global. So how is QSC, supporting their dealers that are trying to reach into new markets?
So we not only put an office in India. I think it was about 2 years ago. Now we put we're staffing that up. We just opened an office in Germany, an office in the UK, and previously we've done that through distribution. So we, like AVI-SPL mentioned, we're looking for consistency and getting closer to the customer. And AVI-SPL and other integrators, they're the customer. And so the way we can help them when we go to market this way, in your interview, they talked about training and accessibility to replacement product, and all of that. And that's our goal, is to support them in that, because at QSC, if you want to do systems, you need QSys training. And that's just something that we can go in and partner with AVI-SPL or any other integrator, so we can train them on site, but we can also help them train their customers, and for us all to deliver a better experience to the ultimate end user. And the end user needs to see partnerships with manufacturers and the integrator. And so as we all look at everything we're trying to do globally, when we can go in as true partners and show this united front, we are able to create a consistent experience, which is what we're all aiming for. And, end users, in my opinion today, their timelines are getting shorter, they're quite aggressive, they're usually unobtainable, and we must partner. And we must partner and offer training and the best support we can do.
It's funny because we have an end user on. So Bradford, are you unattainable?
Yes, I am.
Your timelines might be.
I'm irrefutable.
And irrefutable, yes.
Yes. So this is actually something that I have the unique stance of being on all four sides of this problem. You have the end user, you have the integrator, you have the designer, and you have the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult problem, especially as more and more things are being franchised. And by being franchised, I mean, just this week, Six Flags announced they were opening a park in, I believe it was Saudi Arabia, or it might have been UAE. I've been overseas for some park in Shanghai.
Yes.
And that's definitely been a project. And there's multiple ways we've supported them. At the time, when I was working for Harman had offices in Beijing and India and the UK, but not all of the offices were stocking. Not all of the offices had the same training capability. Also, sometimes some people wanted to build the racks in the States, test them, and then send them overseas.
Real quickly, you said some people, so you're talking about the integrator that was actually doing the work, wanted to build it here in the States and then ship it overseas.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's at the request of the end user so they can prove it's working before they send everything out. That's a whole nother question to debate. That could be hours debating which way is the best. But building it here and sending it overseas, or purchasing it here and sending it overseas because your budget's in fixed cost, or you have a budget, and as currencies have varied, you decide it's most cost effective to buy in the US and ship over yourself. Well, that warranty doesn't always follow. And if you have a distributor over there, I'm not saying anyone is doing anything bad, but a distributor might say, well, it wasn't purchased through me, why should I support it? I didn't get to make money on it. So it is a multi-layer onion. You peel a layer, you cry a bit. You peel another layer, you cry a bit. And the difference I'm seeing is, as Crestron's doing, as QSC's doing, is putting more and more of their own offices overseas, which I think is a key, because it puts you in their time zone, speak the language, understand the vernaculars. Going through distribution gives you that exact same power, but it's a different model. They don't have as much. They make the money off the items they sell typically, and just the items they sell. So it's important for them to be selling them, but they're not going to bring in 100 pieces of product just to have a stock inventory for an immediate replacement. Whereas a manufacturer would go, we can do that and stock it here.
Right, and don't you think it's a bit of with a distributor, often it's a transaction. When it's your own office, you're trying to establish a brand and an experience. It's very different.
Yes, and as they've built things around the world, I've stayed involved on those projects around the world to, as a brand, keep the experience the same. And I think that's the thing that all manufacturers are going to have to do. I think integrators are going to have to do it as well. I just think it's the globalization of the market, and it's going to be interesting because not all of our products are licensed to be used all over the world. And I have to remember to stop saying all of ours.
Yes, you do.
Not all products are licensed to be used all over the world.
Because you don't make anything anymore.
I do as little as possible now. I'm just sitting back looking for houses.
All right. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all so much. Ms. Corey Schaefer from QSC. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
And how do people get a hold of you or QSC if they are so inclined?
QSC.com, and you can find me on most of the social media networks.
All right. Very good.
Under Corey Schaefer.
Under Corey Schaefer. Mr. Tracy Brefka from Biodynamic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to get in touch, it's NorthAmericaBiodynamic.com, Tracy at BiodynamicUSA.com. And we also have our Facebooks and, Twitters and all that kind of stuff going on. And thanks. It's good to be here again.
All right. Absolutely. And Mr. Bradford Ben, thank you, sir, as always.
Your pleasure as always to have me on.
Yep.
Even more of your pleasure to not have me taking over the show.
You were very good today, just for the record.
It being an indisputable industry icon, it's something important I have to represent well.
You do.
If you're looking for me, you can find me out at the System Contractor News think tank in April 19th and 19th in San Jose. You also can find me at AVNation.tv. You can find me on the Twitters at Bradford Ben. You can find me all sorts of fun-filled places. However, you will be most likely to find me running smack because my Devils made the playoffs. And don't follow Tim, by the way.
I have two games for the Blues to either do something or not do something.
But don't follow Tim.
No.
Follow avnation.tv. There are a lot of people working on it. Stop by the website. Tim's been uploading all sorts of content from Digital Signage Expo that happened at the end of March. It's been very good content. Tim's been writing some great pieces about how to interact. You can see Kevin Iselli's interview that spawned this topic. And also, please make sure to thank our underwriters, some of which are right here on the shows. You're right. I'm not an underwriter anymore.
You're not an underwriter anymore. You forget. Okay, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. It's going to take a while.
Years.
It's going to take a while for you to stop saying that, bud. But yeah, so everything that Bradford said, all that and more. Bradford actually did a whole lot of really good work on the website itself. So AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. One small programming note: we're moving. This is the last AV week we will record in this very room. That being said, and me understanding how technology works or sometimes doesn't, I have no guarantee that next week will be a video, but I really am hopeful. We're recording these on Friday. We're moving the studio on Sunday of this week, as long as St. Louis weather permits. It's supposed to snow as of this moment. So hopefully it will be video next week, but regardless, we'll still have an audio version if all else fails next Friday. So wish us luck in hooking all the right cables back together next week. So, but yeah, thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.